What's up, folks?
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Dustin Garman with, of course, my co-host. Throw a lot of chairs at him, please.
No, 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 no. You just got back. You're not allowed to throw. Make me get hit with chairs.
At least I tried. Anyway, our special guest today is none other than Andy Hernandez. How's it going, buddy?
I'm doing pretty all right. And yourself?
Pretty good, and just hanging in there. I wanted to go over just a few. I've got a few announcements. I might be out of the swing a little bit, announcement wise, but of course, always remember Bob Dunn. I also want to mention I try to check in on him when I can. Remember Joshua Bryan as he's getting in this healthy lifestyle and everything. I seen a post of him and his beautiful wife today, and hopefully he's doing okay. For myself, I'm glad to be back. I'm sorry, folks, I had to miss last week. Had a bad case of bronchitis, which led to a bad something I didn't know that I had was I'm also diagnosed as diabetic. I appreciate messages and stuff and people that's giving me advice. It's I'm changing my lifestyle. But anyway, this show is all about Andy today, and I wanted to get to know you. I didn't. I know last week I hit a snare because I didn't have. I had somebody booked for this week, and then what had happened was when somebody canceled weeks ahead, they moved to that week. So I was open this week, and Ito Ortiz actually hit me up and mentioned you. But how's it going, dude?
Everything's going all good. Just recently finished up my class, so I'm just here, still at school, just doing this nice interview with you tonight.
Awesome.
Nice.
Hmm.
I'm also in school as well. That's touche for you, buddy.
Wonderful.
So, I learned from Ito, which I didn't learn a whole lot. I got unfortunately afterwards talking to him. I had gotten sick a day after, but I remember he was telling me about you come from paradise and you're down there with Chugonomics and all those great people.
Hmm. Yep, I'm down here in Florida with the boys.
How did you kind of get in touch with like Super Show and them?
So I got in touch with Super Show because of Chugonomics. One day went over to House Rules Gaming, see some wrestling, and I remember one time Chugonomics and Corrugated Cardboard Villain they got introduced into SRG, and because of it, they got into the game, and then I went over with my boy Pride one day to join them, and they introduced me to the game. I got to learn about it, and then I found a lot of interest in it. Really, it's a very interesting game. How it utilizes such a different mechanic from a lot of other TCGs in this modern era, utilizing a dice system in order to help determine how players go about on turns and such. And
Hmm.
because of it, I found it very intriguing. It's a lot more fair, and a lot more interesting than some of the other games I play currently, like Pokemon or Yu-Gi-Oh! Just because the game has a huge emphasis on LFF, love for family, and how it has a
Hmm.
huge community, where everyone's willing to help each other out, whether it be trying to find rare competitors or trying to build up a collection. I really enjoy how the huge community decides to say, you know what, let's help you out. Uh, I can be able to provide you something, and in return, you pay it forward to someone else.
Hmm. And that's one thing I love about this community too, because I was a big Yu-Gi-Oh fan, and seeing the like the transition into this game and see how the love and which my thing of play it forward is to always give. I always try to give a competitor and build, let them look through my binder and build a deck, and that
Right.
was always because that's what was passed down to me. I had my first deck and I got to build it, so it's a very loving community. And how long have you been in the community?
Uh, I've been in the community for a few years now. I I want to say around 2020 or so, or 2019. I got into the community because of Chugonomics and Corrugated. They helped me learn about the game, and then they got me into the Facebook group. But I wasn't really as active back then, just because I had a lot going on with starting college and all that. But now that I'm finishing up school and trying to do my own thing, I found some more time to actually like interact with other people. Hopefully to start entering more online tournaments and try to go to a bit more locals and just try to get my name out there a little bit more. Uh,
Hmm.
Fun fact, for those who are keeping up with the CCC, I am the trickster. So, so for, yeah, uh, yeah. So it's add on. So to add on to that, I've been keeping up with how a lot of people in the community have been trying to present themselves, like people like Candyman, Boss, Brian Schmidt. I really like how those people tend to keep a presence. And I want to try to expand my presence just like them, so that people will know that hey, I exist. You know.
Are you thinking about, like coming, are you planning on Grand Gathering or anything like that? Or
uh,
anything of that nature?
As much as I would like to go to Grand Gathering, it's a little bit out of my price range because I have a lot of stuff to pay and I have to focus a lot on school too because I graduate in May and I want to make sure that I keep all my grades up too, you know.
Yeah.
Mm.
Me, I applaud you for being in school. I'm in school as well, so I do a lot of bit of online, and I can't always be in online tournaments, but I know you'll understand this. Priorities first, our schools first. So I applaud you for that.
Oh, thank you. Uh, Speaking of school, currently I am a music student. I study composition here at UCF, and I, I write my own music, and I'm more than happy to write music for a lot of other
Nice.
people. Should they need any commissions, I'm more than happy to do so. So for all those who need music for Grand Gathering for your entrances, by all means, hit me up. I'm more than happy to help you out.
Go.
Nice. Nice.
That is actually a very good skill to have.
Definitely. Uh,
So you got into Super Show back in 2019, give or take. What
yeah.
was the first character you were
Wow, okay. So I remember when I went to my first local with Chugonomics, Pride, and Corrugated Cardboard Villain. I think Bob Dunn was there too. The first character I was ever given was actually numero uno.
given?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, I was actually given numero uno, and like when I first played him, I really wasn't too interested in the gimmick. It was it was very weird to me, and I didn't really understand how like the physics of the game worked. So it was very different to me, you know. It took a while for me to get into it, just because I had to understand how competitors work, what their gimmicks were, and I remember when I was given numero uno to play, I was playing against Adam Staley. He was playing Rising Sun at the time.
mhm.
uh, and I remember it was a fun match. I think I won. I think I won that match with numero uno. I honestly don't remember what his finishes were, but it was very different. But as I remember, the next competitor I was given, and one that actually stuck with for a fat minute, was actually Hans Mesmer. Yeah, he was very good. He was a very good one. I remember I played him for a while, and then Chugonomics encouraged me to stick with him because he liked how I played him, very methodical, keeping in mind what I had in hand, trying to read my opponent. But it really hit me that his gimmick was one that I really liked. Especially roll to hit gimmicks. Those are, in my opinion,
Mhm.
those are my favorite in the entire game. That's why I really like playing characters like DJ Outlaw, Rolling Outlaw, Amazing Red especially. I remember I was able to get one from Brian Schmidt. Hopefully he sends that out soon. Plus one to him, by the way. Really great person. Uh, but yeah, those gimmicks I really like. As I developed more into playing in SRG, I grew. Uh, had some taste into learning about what other gimmicks did, such as like passive gimmicks, uh, drummer, like passive gimmicks like AJ style. Well, I haven't played them. I like those types of gimmicks where they're very basic. Uh, and for me personally, I as a player, I really like gimmicks that are really basic because I find it to be very welcoming to new players and even for veteran players like because it allows the player to focus more about on their deck building instead of having to focus around their competitor, where it's like, oh,
Hmm.
what cards do I need to include in order to help make this competitor viable? Like with keywords like beat stick Brandon or big guy, But uh but when it comes to simple gimmicks like Amazing Red, for example, just when you roll your power, just draw two. It actually makes things a lot easier because it lets me focus on just trying to build a solid, consistent deck rather than trying to hope that I'm able to run a deck that's very specific, very cookie cutter, I guess, for lack of a better way to say it. Uh, in terms of other competitors, some of my favorite stat lines to have as a 10. I for some reason recently I've been having a huge fascination running competitors that have a power 10. I've been experimenting with competitors such as Shadow Phoenix, Pretzel Wizard, for example. And those competitors are really cool too. They have interesting stuff to them. Uh, and for me, one philosophy that I've been able to understand throughout the entire throughout the years playing this game is that in this game, there is no such thing as a bad competitor, so to say, because every competitor is made with a lot of love and affection. It takes a lot of time into trying to make one. So honestly, I don't think there's no competitor in this game that's truly bad. Like yeah, there some gimmicks are a lot stronger than others, but
You can
but
also say that none of them are too bad, and anytime there is one that fell below expectations, he does his best to try to remedy.
oh, definitely. Like some competitors, like Mortician, for example, his gimmick, while it is good to have those consistent pluses at the start of the game, uh, it doesn't really help if you're in like a grind game, for example, or trying to but one of his finishes, I think it's his finish strike or finish submission. It's a spotlight one where I think it links the opponent's gimmick or finishes. It's one of those two. I think that really helps the character out a lot because it helps him focus on trying to make a consistent deck that allows him to continually up his turn rolls instead of having to focus on try to hit Handshake of Doom, for example, or try to land Schoolboy, hypothetically.
Mhm. So it seems like Andy, you really enjoy thinking about the the not just the mechanics of the games, but the probability of competitors in this
Oh, definitely.
game.
Uh, uh, might I ask, may you please elaborate a little bit more on the statistics of competitors in this game, for example?
Oh, so like when I first started playing, I took out pen and paper, did little statistics of the chances of rolling, of wins and losses between uh opponents and players, or how many different opportunities you have to win or draw for any given competitor's gimmick. And so the gimmicks like the plus ones or the static AJ Styles plus one, and
Yeah.
doing stuff like that. So because that's where I enjoy the game. I enjoy looking at how much it's like. Here's the probability of any of this stuff happening. We're gonna see if
Mhm.
we go with the probability or something amazing happens that's not probable.
Right.
And then talking about like gimmicks that help like newer players, like sort of when I first started playing, we had the box sets of which they still sell them sort of today, but not all of them. But they were the old backlash, which most of them had easier gimmicks to learn. Like you had, you mentioned Rising Sun. That was a very easy, gimmick to learn. And then like El Super Hombre. Um, back then you had like Rob Graves and just gimmicks that were most of that box set. The first start of it was very well balanced, easy to learn concept.
No, definitely. Uh, when it comes to competitors, well, me as a player, I like Chibi said, I really like understanding the mechanics of the game and seeing how certain competitors fall into a certain category. And what I mean by that, it's trying to see whether this competitor is better at trying to be hyper aggressive, trying to keep the game into a grind game, for example, and trying to get to crowd meter five with Mike Wright, for example, or even Swag ED. Bless his soul for bless the competitor for now being a trios at or tag, or trying to make a competitor be consistent with a certain keyword such as Theo to Greek Neo. I personally like that. One thing I would love to see for the community going forward, or even a product. I think it would be very good in order to have like these basic structure decks. I would assume uh,
Mhm.
like basic structure decks that help encourage a new player to get into the game. You know, and some
Well, that's
and
what they did with the Cosmic Crusader decks, and most of those are
yeah,
pretty like their gimmicks are easy to understand, and their effects are powerful.
Yeah, for example, Mars. I remember for a while I did play Mars. Her gimmick when you stop a card, your opponent buries one in their hand. That's very simple, you know. It allows a player in order to build a more defensive line, and it rewards the player for trying to be defensive, you know. I think
Mhm.
it's very good for this game too, because I think in a game such as SRG. I think it really benefits a lot on playing aggressively and trying to keep the match exciting, which I think is a very good thing, you know. Like it allows for both players in order to have a chance, and it allows for let's say player A who's playing very aggressive in order to demonstrate what skills they have in their deck building abilities, you know. When you play a character like Mars, I think her gimmick, while it is really powerful and being very simple, I honestly think it's actually quite healthy for the game because when you think about it, when you have a character like Scarlet Grace, for example, who has a very powerful gimmick, well, I think the gimmick, but a very powerful finish that is essentially an extension of her gimmick. I think Mars actually does a
Mhm.
good job countering her because playing about defensive, having a defensive play style actually helps oppress those more powerful gimmicks and actually helps a newer player be able to stand up to the upper echelons of the higher ranked players, for example, and it allows them to have a fighting chance. I would say, you know.
Yeah, but then again,
And
a lot of players also go that those kind of competitors are great for when you're learning, but once you
Mhm.
get to a certain status yourself of being a good player, you should move away from those type of gimmicks and try some of the harder games. You agree with
Yeah,
that?
yeah. So in a little bit of a middle ground for that, but in a good way. And I think it's good for players to actually move on from gimmicks that are very simple, you know. And in a way, it helps them not only develop their skills as a deck builder, but also helps them develop as a player because allows them to improve their critical thinking, you know. Uh, like for example, let's say this one player is playing Mars, a very simple gimmick. Well, let's have him play a much more complex character. Uh, I don't know, for example, like Ember Wolf or Press 1P, for example, and have them continuing trying to develop their skills, and let's say go from easy to a medium gimmick like that, and then once they feel comfortable, they understand how that deck plays. Now they have something to fall back on should they move up to a higher level and not like it, for example. So let's say player A really enjoyed Ember Wolf, and now he has a good understanding of how that competitor plays, and they feel necessary to move on to a much more difficult gimmick, like Mike Wright, for example, who requires a lot of setup, you know, and they really like that gimmick, and they find a way in order to consistently get that gimmick to pop off and get to crowd meter five and essentially get the insta win. Then I think it's good. You know, it allows them to feel comfortable with trying to find more routes to take instead of just falling back on one. But going back to what I was saying, like the other side of it, I think it's still good if a player still decides to play a simple gimmick, because every player is different. Like I can't tell player A, hey, uh just because you play with a simple gimmick, I think you should move up to to a more difficult competitor. Or if I should tell player B who's playing a much more difficult competitor and be like, hey, maybe I think it's a good idea, but you shouldn't play there and play a much more difficult competitor. Like because like I said, every player is different. Every player has their own personal play style, and because of I think it's good to respect other players for wanting to choose what they want because this game is very diverse. We have so many competitors in this game. It's very difficult to try to test every one of them because some are more unavailable than others. For example, because
Hmm.
some competitors go out of print, or some competitors are just really expensive that it becomes very difficult for some players to actually
Get their hands on
try.
it.
Yeah, exactly. Like trying to play like the older competitors like El Super Hombre or Snake Pit. It's kind of hard to find those competitors unless you talk to like an avid collector.
Well, I mean,
Well,
those at least are in box sets that are still available.
oh
But
yeah,
Yeah.
but yeah, like indie competitors that are out of print, you definitely have a hard time finding those. Stuff like AJ
definitely.
Styles obviously is very difficult to get your hands on because no one wants to pay $800 for an AJ Styles.
Right.
But yeah, so let's move a little bit off of the game for a second, and so when you said you met Chuggy and them, it was for a wrestling show. What was your first interaction with wrestling?
My first interaction with wrestling. Okay. So my first interaction with wrestling was well, I was a kid. I grew up in New Jersey when I came down here to Florida. I found a lot of interest in wrestling as a kid when I used to watch like WWE on television with my friends. And then after a while, it kind of fell out because I was growing up, I found some different interests. But then when I became a teenager around like 15, 16, when I started going to high school, I found a lot of interest in doing actual wrestling, like high school wrestling. And while I didn't join a team, I did practice a lot with some friends and try to learn how to defend myself. And I think it was like a good way in order to help build up muscle and like get myself into an active. Uh, I think it helped me get more fit and a lot more active, I guess.
Hmm.
And then as I started, when I learned more about SRG, I kind of fell back more into learning more about wrestling and learning about all these different wrestling stars that I'd never heard of. I was able to find out about wrestlers like Liger or Prince of Fashion,
Hmm.
Alex, and all of them, and it got me more interested in learning about those wrestlers and about their lives and about how they got into wrestling. And occasionally, while I may not have a lot of time in order to watch like WWE or New Japan, whenever I'm with the boys or House Rules, or if we're just or if the night happens, I'll probably spend some. If I don't have anything to do, or I don't have school the next day, I'll probably spend some time with them and get to watch some good old wrestling.
Okay. So do you have a
When
favorite wrestler?
Uh, yeah, I would say in different factions. I shouldn't say different factions, but like different versions of wrestling. Like for example, one of my favorite wrestlers of all time, like just in general, is Amazing Red. He's very chill as a Hispanic man. I really like how he represents Hispanic culture and being a great man. In New Japan, I'm a big fan of Kenny Omega because he advocates a lot for fighting games and, for example, like Street Fighter, Tekken, and all that. I really look up to that. Another competitor, well, not competitor, but another wrestler I really like, especially in WWE, was Rey Mysterio. Like, I remember one of my big first interactions with, not him physically, but I got to understand a little bit more about it. Is that I went to a trip to Mexico when I was like 11 or 12. And I remember I went to this little shop and they had like wrestling masks, and I bought two of them. Funny enough, they were Rey Mysterio masks, and everywhere I went with those on, like a lot of people in Mexico were like, "Hey, it's Rey Mysterio," like it was really cool, and like to wear that and to have people like recognize, like have such passion for a wrestler from their country.
Yep.
Uh, what else was I gonna say? Terms of wrestling. Uh, yeah, for yeah, it is.
Culture, culture wise, which I'm not sure when you first started wrestling. Was Eddie Guerrero a big one for you?
Eddie Guerrero. Growing up, not necessarily. Because around the time I kind of fell out, but now going when I was an adult, I kind of understand how he represents the community and
Hmm.
how he leaves a huge impact in the wrestling world.
And it was funny that you were talking about Rey Mysterio mask. I have one myself. I
Hey, let's
always liked. I'm a short guy, so I always liked Rey Mysterio.
Okay. So we're at the halfway point of our show, and usually we like to do some rapid fire questions. Uh,
Okay.
so, but before we go into that, we have a question from Chugonomics that asks, which soda is superior, Coke, Pepsi, or RC?
Neither, because the correct answer is Mountain Dew. I'm sorry, but but to stay on track, I would say me personally, I find Pepsi to be the best out of all of them.
Oh, okay.
Uh, those three options.
Dr. Pepper.
Okay. All right. So the normal questions we start off is pineapple or sheep.
Pineapple or sheep? Oh, uh, I would say pineapple. I love pineapple. I love it as being a soda. I love it on pizza. I
Oh,
love
you
eating it.
horrible, horrible person. Why would you say that?
I'm the trickster. I'm supposed to have opposite opinions.
Fair enough. All right. Next, horse or shark.
Horse or shark? Uh, oh, that's a good one. I'm gonna say shark. Also, big shout outs to Shaggy Shark. Very very fun one.
Do do do.
Candyman Dan or Candy Ma'am.
Oh, okay. Wow, you're really getting me on that one. I would say Candyman. Really great guy. I was able to learn a lot about the game, and I was able to learn a lot about him when he came down to the house rules. He was a very wonderful person. No disrespect to Candyman. She's also a great player, a great person. I'm very very grateful that I met her.
Mhm. Uh, the Nightmare King or the Dark Prince.
uh, I would say the Dark Prince. I find Dark Prince to be a bit more interesting.
And Huskus the cow or Willow the wolf.
Oh. Uh, Huskus the cow, I would say. I just like cows.
Okay. All right, those are the questions. Good job.
Alrighty.
One thing, while we went through them questions, you were talking about your CC competitor or person that you're
Yeah.
wanting to bring into the trickster.
Mhm.
Um, oh wait a minute, we got one more question. We meant to ask cat or dog.
Cat or dog? Ooh. I love. That's a good one. Uh, as much as I love dogs, you know what? Yeah, I actually go with dogs. I don't own one me personally. But in the future, love to have I'd love to have a dog as a companion. Probably like a Shiba Inu or a husky.
Nico the cat is in here, and I think she disagrees, but score one for dogs. But
Uh, Not everyone
No,
hates cats, Neko. It's
no.
just they
Here's the
like
thing.
dogs more.
I love cats. At work, we have like three work cats that I love to like interact with, and I take care of them. So well, so if I had to, I would say both. I love both cats and dogs, but for the sake of the question, I would say dogs.
uh, what I was gonna ask you a minute ago, before I forgot that question. I about your trickster. Now for me, when I think trickster, and it might be a totally different concept, but I think of the trickster off of I like Supernatural. So
Mhm.
I think of this trickster off of there and how he was able to manipulate and he could almost shape shift into something and he would trick people a lot of times. What is the trickster that you have came up sort if you want to give a little details on it.
So my idea of trickster, I actually based him off of Joker from Persona 5. I'm a huge Persona fan. Trickster in the
Okay.
Persona games is meant to be the person that interacts with people, essentially goes against the standard norms of what society has to offer, being their own person, leaving an impact on the people that he meets, essentially like helping others find their purpose or helping others rediscover their passions. And not and beside and I should say besides, but on top of that, my version of Trickster is actually based on the Norse god Loki.
Okay.
And yeah, in mythology, Loki was known as the trickster god, and he was meant to be someone that'll pull pranks on people, whether it be harmless or dangerous, and just trying to be, and I would say just trying to be an absolute troll and just be the person that'll essentially do his own thing. Because my philosophy in life is essentially trying to live my life the best way that I can, do what I want, and just have fun with things, like just not trying to take life too seriously, and just trying to stress about all of things, like I just love having fun, much like how Loki does.
Well
Uh,
said.
a question from the audience is, what is your favorite fighting game?
My favorite fighting game. Oh, without a doubt, my favorite fighting game is Super Smash Brothers Ultimate. But I do love all the Smash games. In that game, I play it professionally. I have a lot of good time. I go to tournaments occasionally. Funny enough, in that game, I actually don't play Joker. I actually play characters like Snake, Sora, and Mewtwo. But if I were to play a traditional fighter, my favorite traditional fighting game would probably be Tekken 7. And shout outs to all the King mains out there. So
Okay.
yeah. So yeah.
That was gonna be my other question.
All right.
What is your opinion of people who don't think that Super Smash Brothers Ultimate or any of the Super Smash Brothers are considered uh, a normal fighting game?
Uh I would say that that's perfectly fine. Like Smash was originally meant to be a party game. It wasn't until the community decided to take the game into a step forward and try to make it into more competitive instead of just being a silly party game. And in all honesty, if a person says that Smash isn't a fighting game, they're technically not wrong. They're absolutely correct. It's a party game.
And we also have a question in here from the Dark Prince himself.
Okay.
Oh, what's up there, Trickster? I heard that you chose me, which I appreciate, and everything else. I have two simple questions to ask you. One of them is, who would be your dream opponent in LFF?
An LFF, okay. Uh, my there are actually two. There's actually two. Actually, I'll give three answers in regards to in regards to different leagues, I guess, in terms of singles, tags, and trios. In singles, the opponent I would love to have to face off in either, if I hypothetically go like in Grand Gathering, or there being like a big tournament, one opponent I would love to face off against if for like a feature match. It'd probably be Big Match Pete. I remember I had a match with him, had like a great time. So if you were my final opponent, I would like that would make me so happy. In tags, uh, yeah, in tags, I would love to play against someone like Hold the Line Harry or Practicite. I think those two guys are very wonderful people. And while I haven't got to meet them or interact with them as much or personally, I would love to face off against them. And then trios. I would actually like to face off against Curry and Cardboard Villain should he be my final opponent because I think he's a very, very intelligent player, very wonderful to be around. He helped me learn the game and learn a lot about how to deck build, how to become a better player. So I think it'd be very fitting if he were my final opponent, you know.
Okay. My second question to you: if you were in any wrestling company and you were after the tag team titles, which
Mhm.
company will you go for, and who will you bring as your tag team partner?
Oh, okay. So, so for that question, am I allowed to pick anyone from that company or like am
Yes,
I?
you can pick anyone that your heart desires. Anyone.
Hmm. It's a good one, you know, like I'd have to think. I'd have to think about that. But if I were to do so, I'd probably pick. mm, yeah, I'd probably pick New Japan, just because it's one of my favorite companies in wrestling, and I'd probably pick someone. You know, it's a very good question. I had to think about that. Like, if I had to pick a tag team partner, probably, uh, probably Tanahashi or Okada, as my tag team partner. So yeah.
Okay.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you, and carry on, guys.
Thank you, Dark
All
Prince,
right.
once again
No
for your
problem.
question.
All righty. And do we have any in Twitch?
That's
Just
what I was just
asking because
looking
we're
for. It really seems like the Union verse is just trying to steal uh Andy from Paradise. It would you go to the Union verse if they would have you? Apparently they have dental.
I already got dental coverage for Paradise. Plus, I can't leave my family behind.
Makes sense. Of course, Chuggy has to give dental. I mean, with all of the sodas and candies that he eats, obviously he needs something to take care of those teeth.
Oh yeah, definitely, man. Like, huh, how else am I gonna take care of myself? You
Okay,
know?
Chuggy, no one is saying you need to do war crimes. Like, what? You're not. It's not that big here. He'll make it look like an. Oh gosh.
Wow, chat's really going crazy. Uh, but yeah, uh, yeah, I can't leave Paradise behind. They were the ones that got me into the game. They treat me like a brother. And if the union wants to take me, well, then we're gonna take me by force,
Uh,
and yeah, we're gonna go through all of
ooh.
Paradise before they take
Union versus Paradise battle. Winner take all.
me.
Chuggy
That'd be
needs a
very,
new security force anyway.
that's fair.
So
Uh,
you got Ito down there too, so they're gonna have to go through a lot of plush toys as well.
Hmm.
that's
So we're talking about your competitor Trickster.
mhm.
If you were to actually win the CCC, what
Yeah.
would you try to get made as the Trickster? What kind of gimmick would you?
What kind of gimmick? Okay, so I had two ideas for a gimmick. One of which I thought would be pretty cool. In order to fit with the persona theme of switching personas as Joker, and the other one is just another gimmick I had in mind would just be a retrain of an existing competitor. So, do you want to go in depth into both? If that's all right.
Go ahead.
All
Floor is
right.
yours.
So the first one, just to get the simplicity out of the way, the idea I had was just going to do a retrain of Amazing Red's gimmick. When I roll my lowest skill, for example, I would just drop a card. Personally, the reason I would do that, it would help a lot of players who wanted to play Amazing Red. but can't afford them, they would have an alternative with different finishes and can still have the same gimmick and try something different. Like my competitor would have different stat lines, so he would so players could try different skill cards, for example, or try different stops that would help benefit them, or and just try and make my competitor more accessible to a wider audience and have them be able to play essentially a competitor that the kids can't get their hands on and just try this competitor and just have like the same experience. Uh, the other idea that I had that I think would be really cool, but I think would be very difficult to, uh, I think would be very, I shouldn't say difficult, but would be very interesting. Uh, was essentially if I rolled my 7 or 8, I can look at the top 3 cards of my deck, and then I can swap one of those cards with another card I have in my hand, and then bury the 3 cards. If you know what I mean.
That is
So
a very powerful effect.
yeah, and funny enough, I was actually discussing this with some friends, where they might say that gimmick is like either a bit weird or very underpowered. Where, for example, so let's say I roll my 7 and I have like a bricked hand of just follow ups with no stops, and I look at the top 3 cards, and all 3 of them were rejected, derailed, or apocalypse. I can swap out, let's say a brick card like punch, for example, where late game it might not be too effective. I can replace that with rejected, or yeah, I can
I mean,
replace
you're looking at 10% of your deck. You're
yeah,
getting to swap a dead card for a live card, and then
yeah,
those three cards go to the bottom. So it
yes,
gets rid of any extra chase there. You're
right.
getting rid of a bad card, putting it to the bottom. If you have 3 cards that are really good, you're still getting one of those cards no matter what. That is
Mhm.
and it's happening on 30% of your rolls is a very powerful effect.
True. And part of me was thinking about just like toning it down to where I have to roll onto just like one skill, either a skill or just one stat. Say for example like 7, where just where it was one skill or one stat line, or not stat line, but just one stat, and just make it a bit more fair, because being able to essentially go through my deck and just or turbo out and just try to replace cards that may not be too useful would be is actually very strong. I cannot deny that. But I didn't really think about like just the power of it, because I was more focused on like the more fun aspect and like the reference of being able to swap out personas, how Joker does in Persona 5, where he has like the whole stock, and let's say there's a persona that's kind of weak, and it's kind of weak, or it has an ailment that, well, I shouldn't say like a weakness to something like fire or ice. I can just swap that out for another persona that has like a resistance to it, or can just null it out completely. Where I was more focused on just trying to like just help, you know, and do you want me to go into like finishes or something, or do
Sure,
you
if
just
you have finished.
the
Yeah, this
finishes that I had, let me just pull it up. I actually have it pinned in one of my messages. I have it pinned in my let's see. Yeah, so the first finish, the finish strike, down shot. My player randomly discards cards from her hand for each strike I have in play, +3 to strike, +2 to power. For context, my strike is my 5 and my power is my 6. The finished grapple, taking the treasure, copy the effect of one non-finished card your opponent has in play, +2 to grapple, or +1 to submission, and +1 to submission. And then the finished submission, all out attack, +1 to all my skills. My opponent has 4 or more stops in play, double the bonuses. And I thought of something. thought his finishes out though like just keep in line with the persona reference and can help back up the simple gimmick that I had, or just try to like make the whole competitor just persona based, you know?
Well, they sound like fun finishers. I
Mhm.
think that even with just the amazing red gimmick,
Yeah.
they would still be a little too powerful just because you look at Amazing Red's finishers, and while they're strong, he still has finishers that only give +2. Sure, it's
Right.
to the 8 and 9, but he his stat increases aren't that big. Like you have a 5 to a 9, 6 to 7 to a 9. You got 8
Mhm.
to a 9, 6 to an 8. You never get like ridiculous.
Right.
And especially with
One
that other gimmick you were talking about. Oh, no, 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 no. That'd be way too powerful of finishing
Yeah.
like that.
one thing that speaking of Mason Red, one thing that I've learned just seeing a few people like there is a few gimmick excuse me. There is a few gimmicks that are, I mean, they're a little bit different. But one thing for sure, I know back in the day that they said that they would never make anything like Mason Red's gimmick, but
They
like for
said they would
instance,
never make something like Brian Cage's gimmick, but we have
yeah, yeah. But anyway, with like Amazing Red, what I've come to learn from hearing from two other people that's made gimmicks that's sort of similar is they would kind of break it down sort of. I know we have one gimmick that's pretty similar. It's Pluto, of course, where you get to that come in the Crusaders, where if you roll your 5, which is your grapple, you get to you you shuffle one card from your hand into your deck to draw two, and then there's another one like I'm thinking Pretty Boy Snow is kind of similar, where if he rolls his 5, which I think is his strike, he can take a +1 on his next turn roll, or he draws one right
Yeah.
then.
Yeah, it's either you draw
But
one or +2.
I think just judging from what I've just in the past about Mason Red, I think gimmick wise it would be something similar but not as powerful. It's just the draw two from the
Right.
Mason Red. Just my opinion. But
No, I totally respect that, man.
and we are in the last few minutes of our show. Uh if you have any questions that you would like to ask, please ask them now.
Yeah, I'm very curious to see what Twitch chat has to say, or all the people out there want to tell me. You know.
And also at this point, we like to let our guests, in this case you, Andy, ask one question to both me and to Dustin.
Okay. For Dustin, I'm very curious to ask, but who's your favorite competitor to play as in this game?
well, for me, if I could go outside, now my favorite competitors are the ones I've made. I have a True American guy and a GPS, but all things aside, outside of not to be biased with my characters, I think here lately I've really liked Pluto. I tend to run him a lot of times. There's another they're kind of tied because I've been sort of using both, but kind of like you were talking about earlier about gimmicks where if you row a certain skill you get to do something. I
Yeah.
also really like the concept of split. So here
Yeah.
lately I've been using those two.
Okay. It's very interesting. I like that. And then for you, Chibi, this one actually is a bit more. This one actually is very interesting. This question I have is fairly interesting, but if you were to name two competitors in this game that you would want to errata, or 2023 and or yeah, 2023 and 2024 in this case, what two competitors would you have the power
If
to?
I had the power to errata a competitor, what
Yes,
competitor would I choose?
yes.
Honestly, I think of just for fun shenanigans sake, I would take the original Beast Michael Kerr and turn his front face of after flipping two or more cards into a May flip.
Hmm.
A second one I would do is make Kenny Omega, Black Star, and any of those that have blow up gimmicks 3 times per match.
Okay, that's understandable. Yeah, I actually agree with you on that. Having blow up effects, while they are very good, I believe that those types of effects are some of the best disruption in the entire game because
They can sometimes just slow down the game to a standstill. Like, oh
it
yeah,
can,
no, you're winning your turn rolls, but you're not doing anything because I have play.
right, right. It can be like it can be I shouldn't say it can be a huge problem. But being able to just pop cards on your opponent's side and your opponent not having an out to it, for example, such as if you're playing against like Velvet Assassin or Candyman Dan in this case, and it can really cause I guess imbalance in this case. And if your opponent just doesn't have the right out to it, or they don't have something to help keep up, then a player who has that blow up effect can really have a big advantage that can leave, I would say, a negative experience on the game, if that makes sense. Yeah.
And we have one last question from Chuggy. Can you
Okay.
play the lick?
The lick? I don't have my saxophone on me, but yes, I can play the lick. And ironically enough, I'm in one of the very few rooms in this music building that doesn't have a piano in it. But yes, I can play the lick. That is correct.
Well, awesome. Thank you, Andy, for all the time you spent here today. I appreciate all of it. Dustin does as well, right?
Yeah, I appreciate having you on the show. It's always cool to get to know, which I wasn't too familiar with you, but
Yeah,
to
especially
me,
because
you
you haven't
seem like,
been online that long. You've
Yeah,
been in the community forever, but I had never even heard of you, and
right.
that's surprising because I know everyone.
That's fair.
but you seem well educated and pretty gifted coming from the music and stuff. But it is a pleasure having you, man.
Oh, and one last thing I want to say before I leave. Say that SRG is one of my favorite games at the moment. Actually, it's just one of my favorite like card games in general. It leaves a big impact on me in a good way. It allows me to meet new people. It allows me to have a lot of fun. I think honestly, it made me a lot closer to the people in Paradise. I'm very thankful for them. Big shout outs to Pride, Chugonomics, Carrier Cardboard Villain, Arcade Addict Darren, and a lot of people in House Rules Gaming. Shout outs to Chris Savoy and our boy Chris McMullen. They're very very awesome people. And one thing I'll make very clear for a lot of people out there is that one of my biggest goals for SRG actually isn't trying to like get any belts or anything like yeah, I'll enter tournaments and have fun, but getting a belt really isn't my final goal. One of my biggest goals for this game is just trying to get Trickster made because I have a friend, she's really gifted at art, and I want to give her an opportunity. If should I win the CCC, or if anyone cares to pay it forward to me and like help get my competitor made. Like I want
Get her
like
some work.
yeah, I want to give her an opportunity to actually make the character and have on her portfolio say that hey, she made actual art for a game and it's actually featured. Like I'm not trying to do this just for myself. I actually want to do this for someone else and be able to give them an opportunity and help further their career, you know. But yeah.
Great.
Mhm.
Thank you once again, Andy Hernandez. Hopefully we see more of you on
Thank
the
you again.
online. And Dustin, who do we have for next week?
Next week's episode of Tell Us About Yourself is going to be with Taylor Swab. Le Penguin
Le Penguin.
is going to be on next week.
Perfect. All right. And if I can get a bye, man.
I'll see y'all later.
Bye, man.